Imagine you are enjoying a beautiful winter's day in the Austrian Alps. The sun's shining, the snow is cold and crisp, and you're carving beautiful turns down the mountain, totally engrossed in the moment, when bang, right in front of you, a man falls in the snow, followed ever so slowly by a large green parachute. What is going through your mind? 3 words probably. What? The. And as you're trying to get your head around the 3rd word, your legs are waiting patiently for some form of decision. Do I go left? Do I go right? And none comes. So the part of your brain responsible for self-preservation kicks in, makes a call, and it goes for both. Now that part of the brain knows bugger all about snowboarding. And you think of the 3rd word as you cartwheel to a halt in the snow. And your day goes from bad to surreal, because out of nowhere, a man appears, and with an interesting Irish accent, offers you a cup of tea. Now let's just wind the clock back a little bit. The reason I'm there is because my team and I, our hosts, the Austrian Special Forces, wanted to take us skiing. They had a choice: drop us by bus, drop us by parachute. It's a hard day at the office for the SAS. And as I'm standing watching probably the most beautiful drop zone in the world, I noticed 3 things. First of all, where they're dropping us is remarkably close to the ski slope. Secondly, whilst the Austrian Air Force is normally very accurate, this time they weren't. They dropped the next batch right over the ski slope. And thirdly, for a very pretty girl on a snowboard, completely oblivious of what was going on above her, life was about to get very interesting indeed. She said no, by the way. And so, as I walk away with my cup of tea intact and my dignity in tatters, I think we both learned something. I learned how not to pick up girls in Austria, and she learned, I think, that under stress, making decisions under stress, we don't make good decisions. Now, turns out, I think this is something that we have a little bit of experience of in the SAS, preparing people to perform under situations that could be regarded as stressful. And I wanted to share 3 simple ideas with you today about how we do that. First of all, what is stress? Well, in this context, we're talking about the body alarm response, that natural instinctive reaction to a situation that we perceive as a threat or a challenge. And the symptoms, or the signs will be familiar to anyone who has had a near miss in a car, who has a man fall out of the sky and land in front of them in the snow. And it's also got one other effect. The area at the front of our brain starts to shut down. That could be a snag, because that's the area of the brain we use to make decisions. So, to explore this, let's go to the countryside, where you have just been told that the bushfires that have been burning out of control for the last couple of days are possibly heading your way. You've been going in and out of information overload and information vacuum for the last several days, and now you get the instruction from the authorities: enact your fire plan. And you realize you don't have one. Where's your stress level? You're now in an incredibly stressful situation. You've got some very big decisions to make. Do I leave right now and risk losing my home, my property, everything? Or do I stay and risk my life defending my home? And if I do stay, how would I do it? The reality is that a great number of people on the 7th of February 2009, on the day known in Australia as Black Saturday, found themselves without a robust, rigorous fire plan. Maybe they thought they could rise to the occasion. Whatever the reason, they didn't have one. And many people found themselves having to make some very big decisions under incredible amounts of stress. Now imagine you could turn the clock back. What decisions would you make? What would you do differently? Now, I think everyone in this room would accept that leadership is very much about having a vision. It's also about having a plan to achieve that vision. And a plan is more than just step 1, step 2, step 3. That's not a plan. That's a list of instructions. You know that saying, no plan survives the first shot fired? That's the sort of plan they're talking about. Because, as we've just seen, under stress, we cannot think clearly. So really, the key to making decisions, or good decisions, under stress, is to have already made better ones when we're not. Now, in my life in the Special Air Service, we had a reputation, I think quite justified, for getting the job done, regardless. And in my time as a team commander on the ground, in combat operations throughout the world, I spent my life asking 3 simple questions. What could make our day difficult? And if it did, what would I do about it? And what can I do right now to stop it getting difficult in the first place? Now, I know a lot of organizations do indeed think about this sort of thing, and a lot of organizations give their staff training. To explore this, let's go back to school, to a primary school, where a teacher has just had an incredibly stressful experience. One of her pupils has just suffered a massive allergic reaction. Now imagine you're that teacher. You had the training, you know exactly what the child needs. She needs an EpiPen. You know she's got one in her bag, you struggle in her bag, you find it, you pull it out, you pull the cap off, in. You've now got a bigger problem, because you've just injected yourself in the thumb with adrenaline, which is all you need when you're stressed. Luckily, if you can call it that, another pupil in the same class is also anaphylactic. You struggle in her bag, you find the EpiPen, you bring it out, you pull the cap off, bang! Once is an accident, twice is habit. Now, the story has a happy ending. Luckily, again, if you can call it that, a third pupil at the same school also was anaphylactic, and a second teacher, not quite so stressed, was able to bring that EpiPen in, and the girl made a full recovery. She wasn't happy, but she made a full recovery. Now, imagine you're that teacher. How would you feel? You've been trained, apparently, and you couldn't rise to the occasion. How would you feel? To understand what happened here, we've got to wind the clock back a bit further. Humans are creatures of habit, especially under stress. No matter where the car manufacturer puts the car horn, what do? Even if it's not there. Now, habits are nothing more than behaviors that have been conditioned through repetition. Practice does not make perfect. Practice just makes it permanent. What has she done? What has the teacher had a lot of practice in? A pen. A red pen. All she did under stress was produce exactly the same behavior she'd been conditioned to through her entire working life. Now, in the military, especially in special forces, we do a lot of parachuting. I don't know why someone thinks it's a good idea. And every jump is the same. You strap on a parachute, you struggle to the door, you pull yourself out, you plummet like a homesick anvil until the damn thing opens, and then you sit around and enjoy the view until someone puts a planet in your way. And it's the same every time apart from the view. Until you have a malfunction, at which point you've got the rest of your life to sort the problem out. Now, I'm going to suggest that's the kind of deadline that might just induce a bit of stress. And so because of that, we do constant repetitions of malfunction drills over and over and over and over again. And then we do it some more. Because the idea is to produce an instinctive, habitual response that can be carried out under stress and without the need for any conscious thought. And even then, we practice it again because it's a perishable skill. We do nothing but malfunction drills when we come to parachuting. So I would offer you the opinion that if your organization trains people and deems them competent after a 30-minute, 1-hour training session, and then expects them to rise to the occasion and is surprised when they can't deliver that behavior under stress, it's no surprise. Now, the idea that we use is to actually make the situation less stressful in the first place. And to do that, step into my office. You're going to join me on a hostage rescue operation I did a while ago. Now, there is the entire potential. It could be a two-way range. In other words, bullets come this way as well. So we're wearing body armor. We're wearing a helmet as well. It's heavy. One of the small benefits of stress is, a small amount of stress, is that you feel stronger. You don't notice the weight. Wearing a gas mask as well. I sound like an Irish version of Darth Vader. You can work yourselves out. And I'll be honest, folks, we are not there to negotiate. Time for talking is over. We are carrying guns. We're there for a purpose. Picture the adrenaline. Just at that perfect level to get the edge. We're standing by the door, waiting for the word of command. We get it. Go, go, go. And we're in. Moving through the building, searching. Calm, controlled, hunting. Into one room, nothing. Into another room, nothing. Into a third room. It's dark, torches on, there's noise, there's people, there's weapons, there's threats, bang, there's shooting. And all of a sudden, it goes quiet. Just as suddenly as it started, it's over. We look around. There are 3 men dead. Look at the first 2. They've got weapons. That was a threat. It's not something we take lightly. It goes with the job. We look at the third person. He's not armed. He's carrying something. It's not a weapon. We saw what we expected to see, not what was there. We made an assumption. As a result of that assumption, we made a decision. As a result of that decision, we took an action, and as a result of that action, we killed an innocent man. I killed an innocent man. Humans make sense of the world through patterns. We compare what we are experiencing now to what we've experienced in the past. And if we can't spot a pattern, we try and make one based on what we do know. And those assumptions take time. They take time to create and take time to test. I would argue those are 2 things we don't have when we're under stress. And so, the idea is to, if you want to prepare people for these situations, we have to put them in these situations in the first place. Now that's a problem. I've got nothing against learning from mistakes, but I promised my wife I would try not to kill myself doing it, and I promised myself I would try not to kill anyone else. That's why we use very realistic simulations, like the one we just did. Totally realistic, except possibly one aspect. It's very hard to find volunteers to play the part of the bad guys when you're using real bullets. We use very realistic dummies and mannequins. And those pre-experiences, those simulations are where leaders learn to lead. They're where individuals learn to work as a team, and they're where we prepare for the future. Pre-experiences actually make the real experience less stressful. They are now familiar to us. It's kind of been there, done that, got the t-shirt. They also allow us time to reflect. We cannot change the past, but we can reflect on it. Actions and their consequences. In my case, my actions, I killed an innocent man. Consequence, I had to write a letter to his parents. The hardest letter I've ever written. Also allows us to reflect, to look at what we would do instead in the future. See, we can't change the past. The lessons I learned as I wrote that letter are, for me, what changed the future. Now, I regard it as a huge privilege. I'm sharing a room with people who will change the world and the future. And people will be drawn to you on that journey. And that road will be tough, occasionally. The very fact that you're in this room means that you're thinking, bring it on. And what I've said so far, these 3 lessons, pre-decide, precondition, pre-experience, boils down to just one thing. When business and life is anything but usual, we do not rise to the occasion. We sink to the level of our preparation.